Now, right there in your notes, 3 times God uses locusts as a vehicle of judgment. Each is a plague of horrible proportions. Now, you all in your mind can remember. Remember, Moses had locusts, Joel has locusts, and in the book of Revelation there are locusts. Do you remember that? And those are the 3 occurrences of locusts, other than when it talks about people eating them. And by the way, when I was studying locusts, they're a real delicacy. You bake them for 2 hours at 400 degrees, and you pull the heads off and the legs off, and you eat the rest. And they said they're good salted or with little honey on them. Just thought I'd pass that along. Number 1, in Exodus 10, verse 4, and 12 to 14, and also verse 19, Moses unleashes the 8th plague, and that was locusts that horribly devour Egypt. So that's an awful occurrence. Number 2, in Joel chapter 1 and 2, God sends a plague of locusts that horribly destroy Judah like their enemy Egypt was destroyed. Finally, in Revelation 9, 3, and 7, at the sounding of the 5th trumpet, the release occurs of these horrible demonic hordes that are like locusts from the abyss. For just a moment, if you want to turn there to Revelation chapter 9, I want to read it to you, just so you can sense the awesome nature of this plague and how incredible it is to study about locusts, because they are about the most fearsome of all the pestilences as far as beasts go on the earth. It's amazing. Wait till you hear how fast they multiply and everything else. But listen to Revelation chapter 9. I'm going to read starting in verse 1. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven, which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the bottomless pit was given to him. And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke went up out of the pit, like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. And out of the smoke came forth locusts upon the earth, and power was given them as the scorpions of the earth have power. Look at verse 7. And the appearance of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle, and on their heads, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men, and on it goes. But what it's talking about is that this plague in the tribulation time, not only does God say in the book of Joel that the whole tribulation is like a plague of locusts, but also during the tribulation, a plague of locusts, demonic locusts, erupts from the pit. Continuing to read, today on your study sheets, few readers of the book of Joel are likely to ever have experienced a locust plague. With our current eradication methods, a locust swarm in modern Israel is indeed a rare phenomenon. In ancient times, however, the land of Israel was frequently subject to invasions by the desert locust, Schistocerca gregaria. Sounds like something at an Italian restaurant. In 1915, a journalist, and by the way, this is a National Geographic journalist, and if you have any old Geographics, I happen to collect them and love to collect them. In the 1915 edition, December of 15, for 39 pages, it has a pictorial and graphic literary account of the plague of locusts. But in 1915, a journalist in Jerusalem, John D. Whiting, standing in almost the very same place where Joel stood more than 2,000 years ago, witnessed a similar event. Listen to what he writes in the National Geographic from 81 years ago as a plague of locusts, prior to our modern bug spraying techniques, just wiped the place out. He says, I'm standing by the gate, and suddenly the darkening of the bright sunshine comes as clouds so dense as to appear quite black of locusts began to descend on the city. In an inconceivably short time, every leaf is consumed. He takes pictures. I mean, it's really neat. Here's a picture of a full tree, and then he takes it the next day, and there's nothing there but just branches. And then he takes it, and they've eaten down the small branches to the thick branches. Every leaf is consumed, leaving bare and barked twigs only. It seems as if the entire surface of the ground moves. It produces a most curious effect upon one's vision. It causes dizziness because they're moving constantly, and it's like the whole ground is moving. Up and up the city walls they go, and the castle walls they climb to the very heights. He goes on to say it's like living soot. He says they're black. And he says, and they just cover everything with a black layer. And they even come and they find their way through cracks and holes. Like Joel says here, they march through the doors and up the walls. The only vegetables and fruits that are now available in Jerusalem come from the Jaffa gardens. They were so rare that none but the richest could pay the price for which they sold. Olive oil in this land has been used as fuel for lighting sacred lamps. But because of the locusts, the lamps, never before dim, are now extinguished. Hanging in Christian churches in front of icons and altars, daily they're put out, just as the sacrifices of Judah's temple were unwillingly suspended after the locust devastated, as Joel wrote about. Finally, this is how he concludes his little article in the National Geographic. With the annihilation of the grape crop, drinks have doubled in price, so that it is unnecessary with Joel to say, "Awake, ye drunkards, and weep and howl, all ye drinkers of wine," because they are already doing it. Isn't that interesting? The very same thing that happened in Joel's time happened in 1915